Stories Behind the Stories Mackinac Island edition, and I'm so pleased to have with me today Matt Myers, who is a master carpenter. And if you know anything at all about Mackinac Island, you know that it is full of old houses and old buildings, Victorian inns. That was the era when a lot of things were built. And so I'm sure there's constant need for restoration and repair. And when I called the Tourism Bureau and asked, who knows about the houses on the island? I'm so curious because as a writer, I always include a lot about the houses there, everything's set in the houses. And so who could tell me? And immediately, Matt, they said, oh, that's Matt. You want to talk to Matt. You want to talk to Matt Myers. And so I'm so happy to have you here today. And I see that you're in your sauna, you said, and you've got a fire going. You're good.
It's a 30-degree day, 35 degrees, slightly raining, and this is where I do my best thinking. And it's very quiet and nice.
Oh, that's wonderful. Wow. You're making me jealous as I sit here in my office. In a little bit, we'll have to have you show us the view from your sauna there. But you live on the island year round. Were you born and raised there?
No, I was not. And when you do try to reside here, you are constantly made aware of, not constantly, but there's in the early days you're reminded of that you're not a local,
Okay.
and you can live here a long time and still not be a local. But I grew up south of Jackson, Michigan, about 20 miles, near a little crossroads called Liberty, which has a mill pond, which at one time had a quite large flour mill on the Grand River. And I grew up, that was a mile down the road from where I grew up. And we hung out at the mill pond and the dam. And that was kind of my early days. And to be from near the headwaters, probably 10 miles from the headwaters of the Grand River, which
Mm.
flows out to Lake Michigan. I occasionally, when I'm in Lake Huron here on the island, I occasionally remember that the waters where I grew up are the same waters that I'm in. So it's kind of fun.
Oh, isn't that something? Yeah, that is amazing. And I was born and raised in a small town in Michigan as well, West Branch. And having been raised with the Great Lakes surrounding us and so many inland lakes as well, and the rivers like the Grand, I feel like there's something that is just bred into us in terms of the water and being surrounded by water and nature. And I miss it. I'm not around that anymore. So I'm a bit jealous that you're right there still. So, how does a person become a master carpenter? Before we talk about the houses, and I also want to talk about something else I learned about you. I'm going to put you on the spot because I learned you're a writer as well. But before we talk about any of that, how does a person become a master carpenter like you are?
Well, the master part is other people's words. uh,
And
they're,
that is
they're,
the word they use to describe you. So,
uh, it makes you sit back and think about, your skills. Um, I grew up, my father built our own home uh, way back, and there were several projects over the years while I was growing up. So that was not a foreign thing to me, helping me with tree houses and stuff like that. And I just kind of kept it in my back pocket, I guess, through all the other things that you do along the way. I came up to the island in 1981 was my first summer, and I by chance became a barn boy for a West Bluff summer home. And so, there were small repairs and always things going on around the stable and the home. And I would find some work on the side over the years. Various guys, needed a hand once in a while. I worked construction one winter at the Grand Hotel. I believe that was the winter of 83, 84. And if you've ever read anything about the lumber camps of northern Michigan,
Mhm.
it was kind of like the modern day lumber camp. We worked 12 hours a day, and they provided us three meals, and you burned that off every day.
Wow.
I remember it being 15 degrees below zero right before Christmas.
Mhm.
And you'd eat dinner at 6 and go back to work till 8 o'clock at night. And stuff for a young guy, right?
Yes.
And I went through a variety of jobs, and I always kind of stayed in northern Michigan, north of Harbor Springs, up Douglas Lake, Cross Village. And I eventually got work with a guy whose family had a construction business and a very nice shop just north of Harbor Springs. And he had a brother who kind of maintained the homes that the father had built and the family had built on Lakeshore Drive and whatnot.
Beautiful
And
homes there too. Yeah.
oh, beautiful. And but the brother I worked for was more of a shop guy, and he was working through his own skylight design. And so I was with him through some variations and changes to that idea, and we would go to trade shows and promote the skylight. And he would do a lot of one-offs, custom woodwork things. I was only involved in the I don't know 5 years I was with him. I was only involved in one house build, which was a teamwork between the two brothers for a neighbor right there by the shop. So one thing leads to another. I moved off the island in 87, 1987. In the middle years there, after the working as a for the private family, I went on to drive private hourly tours on the island for 5 summers. Loved it. Just really loved it. It was very, very interesting meeting the public and trying to keep their attention and interest for an hour per trip, usually.
Yeah.
And I will say, over the time, the retired school teachers were my favorite because they could actually put together things I said, told them at the end of the trip. They could put it together with the stuff in the beginning of the trip, and that was all.
Well,
That
thank
was
goodness
good.
teachers know how to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Know how to make sense of things.
Right, right. So it was that was fun. But I come the spring of 87, I spent the winter of 86, 87. And come the spring, I just said I gotta get out of here. There's no way for me to get ahead. So that's when I went to North Emmett County there, north of Harbor, and bounced around. I was a caretaker on a farm. And I ended up with this guy uh, doing the shop work and whatnot. And right in there, I re-met my wife. She grew up here on the island in the summers at the fort. Her father is Dr. Armour, historian, and he spent 30 plus years, 60s through the 90s, doing the building up Mackinac City Fort, the island fort, getting all of that going with Dr. Peterson. And so she has a long history here of summers. She spent every summer of her life. And we ended up getting married in 93. And we were going to live down by Cross Village. And one thing led to another. And I said, if you can't beat them, join them.
Mhm.
And because she was still staying pretty ingrained here on the island. And so we moved in 98. I quit my job, started my own business, and away we went.
Wow. So that is 27 years ago?
Correct. So
Wow.
I've had a business here since 98, 27, 28 years. I actually started in 97, but
And I'm taking some notes here because you're saying a lot of things I have questions about. So your business is Mackinac
woodworks.
Woodworks. So if
Yep.
someone wanted to find you, that's where they would look. And you'll find this interesting because I know you write as well. But when I went to type in Mackinac Woodworks, I put Word Works. And I thought, oh, that's his next business. That's the next one.
It
The
could be.
writing.
It could be. The
So,
juices are starting to flow again. Yes.
yeah, well, here's some questions that I have. Uh, First of all, you met your wife, you said again. So, and I know this is a bit personal. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to, but did you meet her before on the island and then you left and came back and that's when the romance started, or how'd that go?
Well, we have 9 years between us, and she says she was waiting for me to grow up. But
Oh,
good luck. Good luck with that, right? So I knew of her when she was, 13, around working
yeah,
downtown
sure,
and whatnot.
sure. So she was
And
a child, yeah.
well, yes. And so we reconnected many years later there in
I'm glad
the
you waited because I have a friend who got married when she was 13 and the guy was 22. That's a bad idea. Don't, yeah, I'm glad you didn't do that.
yeah,
So
no,
that's a lovely story
it,
though.
it is. And so what I've noticed over the years is uh, if you've spent time on the island as a summer employee or whatever, it really, really helps to find a partner that is in the same boat, is of the same lot.
Right.
It's a little bit tough to really have a love for the island and bring in someone with no experience here. It's a rare thing that those people stick together.
Well, and I think what you've just said is so important because those of us who love the island have a feeling for it. I mean, it's not just being there, physically being there. There's an emotion attached to
Yes.
how we love the island. And I've always believed that part of that must go back to when the natives were there before the Europeans came, the French came, and it was a sacred place to them. And I think that sacredness it still emanates. I mean, we feel it if we love the island. But I know for you, the island is also a workplace. So here's some of my questions. Uh,
Let me interject to finish up what you just said. There's a poem out there written by a man named Morris Martin, and it's called "Home on Mackinac." And a line in it, and it's been quoted here in various times. Whom God loves, He gives a home on Mackinac.
oh,
And you throw that out there once in a while, and it's kind of nice.
that's
Okay, on to your questions.
yeah, that's very nice. I love that. And so for you, Mackinac Island has become home. You have a love of the island, but it's also your workplace. So for
Which is,
you,
yeah,
there's that double duty. For those of us who come to visit each summer, it's our reprieve, it's our relaxation, it's our getting away from the rest of the world. And there might
huge
be some people.
conflict. Huge
Yeah, right,
conflict.
right. And and there might even be some people watching or listening who don't know that on the island there are no cars. And so for those of us who visit, oh, it's just heaven to get away from automobiles and noise and that kind of chaos. And the horses are so charming and so lovely. But we don't have to do work and wait for the horse to show up with the wagon to take us somewhere, like I know you have to do. And so for you, it must be difficult at times. Does your work season start when the people leave?
Um, Not necessarily. There's often light duty, light maintenance done during the summer. Just depends on the owner and the owner's schedule and the necessity of the work that has to be done. Um, I've had relationships with people for over 25 years, some of them, and you get close. It's pretty neat. But as far as things really start the end of the season. The vehicles, you have to get a vehicle permit, but the vehicles start up, and it's almost like a light switch. It happens, one day everybody's getting on the boat, and the next day there's vehicles and projects and things getting torn apart. And it's kind of a mad dash before the hard winter comes, and to try to get as much done as you can. And I was just talking to a group yesterday on a job. You've got deer season starts middle of November. That takes time away for a lot of the guys up here. Then followed right by Thanksgiving. Then you've got a little bit of work in there in December before it's the holidays, and
Right.
before you know it, it's New Year's. So it's a little bit, it's mostly in the winter, but there's a lot of things that you can't do in the winter. For example, painting the exterior of the houses.
Sure.
So you try to, our springs here are quite damp because the water is cool. Takes quite a while for us to warm up. Our temperatures are normally 5 to sometimes 10 degrees cooler than just 20 miles away. But in the fall, the water is warmed up and it insulates us a little bit. And we have a little bit warmer, nicer falls.
Mhm.
So then in the spring, we often have a wind out of the east, which is across the top of Lake Huron. And it's just raw. A lot of the spring is raw, because you're living outside, biking, this, you don't go jump in your truck to warm up, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So, and winters are brutal. They must
Well,
be the
well, they're getting easier. The climate change is showing its face. It's nothing like it was when I was here in the 80s. Uh, and I've watched it since I've been here, 25 plus years. I've watched it get a little milder.
Mhm.
And that really causes problems for us because we hope for a good snow to stay all winter because we get around on snowmobiles for the
Mhm.
most part, and we do a lot of hauling by snowmobiles, and things get a lot easier for us and more economical for the clients because we can get to the job quick. Personally, we can haul stuff without the dray being, the wagons
Mhm.
charged and just stuff like that. But we've had a lot of up and down temperatures in our last 5 years. So you get a good snow, it sticks around for a few weeks, and then you'll have a melt for a week. And it's just a lot of yo-yo.
And that's amazing. And so I've always heard that they wait for the Lake Michigan or Lake Huron to freeze to ride the snowmobiles over
Over
to
to
the mainland.
the
But
St. Ignace.
if
Yeah.
it's freezing and thawing and
Well,
then I would be terrified to do that.
yeah, it takes a lot. It takes a pretty good run of cold weather to have the ice between here and St. Ignace, about 3 miles of water. It takes a lot of cold weather for that to start up, and it's less and less every year. And you really have to stay on your toes. There's a small group of guys that monitor, and if there's an active ice bridge, you are checking with whoever's coming off of the ice to get a report before you head across.
Mhm.
And it can change in minutes.
Sure.
There's pressure cracks that open up. So sometimes they give plenty of warning. They'll either push together the ice sheets or
Mhm.
they'll spread apart, and it can happen. You can go over for a half an hour, and it might not be the same ice half an hour later, and you're coming back.
Oh,
Uh,
my
so,
word. So do you actually do it? I mean, I would never do it. I'd be
well, yes,
terrified. You do
yes,
it. You take a
oh yeah,
chance.
but I also back off when it's anywhere's near questionable.
Sure.
I that brings up another point. often people are doing it just to do it. They don't really have a reason. They'll run over for a few groceries. They'll run over just to get off the island, and it's quite beautiful out there. It can be gorgeous out on the ice with the bridge off across the distance and
Wow.
stellar sunny day with no wind. But I've also been out there with a whiteout blizzard, and I could tell many stories, but it's and we've lost many people, not many, but quite a few people over the years. So
Wow.
yeah,
That that's interesting. Um, that is changing though, and so it would change the way that you would have to operate with everything. When we look at working on the houses, how many houses that they call cottages that I would call a mansion, and I think most people would call mansions, are there on those bluffs? You mentioned the West Bluff earlier. You were a barn boy on
yeah,
the,
yeah.
which is fascinating.
It was for our first year. Yeah.
Yeah, and so how many of those houses, I've never counted, how many are there on the bluffs? And do
Well,
you work on those houses? That's my question.
I've never counted either.
There's a bunch.
Yeah,
There are a whole bunch of them all along the way.
there's the East Bluff, which is up above the east end of downtown Mackinac,
Uh-huh.
and that's a little bit older. Uh, in terms of homes when they were built, they're slightly ahead of the ones that are right on the West Bluff, right above the Grand Hotel.
Hmm.
And then there's an area a little bit further northwest above the West Bluff that is the Annex. And the Annex is that era of homes, and the East Bluff are real comparable to the early mid 1880s. And the West Bluff are the late 1880s to early 1890s, because the Grand, when it opened in 1887, I believe that's what it was,
I have my
1883,
grand mug here.
87, 1987, I think.
I think it was
Uh,
87, yeah.
yeah, that was promoted and built and financed by railroad and lumber and steamship companies
Hmm.
to promote their steamships and railroad. And a lot of people came out of Chicago and would stay at that time the whole summer, which was 2 months. And now it's 7 months almost. And but the season back then was colder and shorter, but the island was promoted as no hay fever and a healthy getaway. So a lot of these families would show up with huge trunks and stay a month or two, and the gentlemen often were working off wherever they were from, and would come visit. And a lot of those early on wealthy summer people at the Grand went on to build these summer homes.
Oh, I see. So they would visit, there were people who would visit and they would love it there and they would
Right,
build a home. That's
right.
interesting. Huh.
Meat packers, the Cudahy brothers. Brothers kept trying to outdo the other one, and finally Michael, he in 1906, I think it was, he built Stone Cliff, which is a
Beautiful.
well, it's just gone through a major renovation, and
Hmm.
it's changed tremendously from what it was 10 years ago. Yeah.
So do you like the change? Oh,
Um,
maybe I shouldn't put you on this spot. These are your friends and neighbors, I know. It's
uh,
just different, I would suppose.
it is different because these places were family owned,
Yeah.
and now they're not. The Grand Hotel, Stone Cliff, uh, Mission Point's always been kind of, well, it's back to being family owned. Actually, it has. So, at any rate, do I like it? I will say that it takes a minute to get used to it.
It's different. Did
and,
you
and
work on it at all?
I've worked on the Grand Hotel, but no, not at. Well, actually, I did work at Stone Cliff when I was first here in 81, that's where some friends were working. And it was very early in the season in April that I came up looking for work. I hitchhiked up here from southern Michigan with a little backpack, and I found my friends, and I found a handful of people that I'm still good friends with
Uh-huh.
uh, all this time. And they said, "Oh, the owner will be right back in a week or so." And you'll have to inquire about a job when he gets back. So I found a bed, and they fed me meals, and I did work for that week. I raked leaves, I hauled drywall up to the top of the mansion. About a week later, the owner showed up. I told him my situation, and he barely broke stride and said, "Nope, can't use you." So I went walking down the road and found the son of the owners. I eventually he was out jogging, and then he asked me, "Hey, how's it going?" And I said, "Oh, just looking for a job." And he says, "Well, you know anything about horses?" And I said, "I had a pony growing up." And next thing I knew, I was a barn boy, and I had 6 horses and 6 buggies. And I was not concerned. This is key. I was not concerned with tourism. I drove the private family around in their private carriages and fell in love. It was a magical summer.
So do the families that come up there in the summer today still have their private drivers, their own horses and carriages and drivers, or do they hire out?
They there's just a handful compared to when I was here in the early 80s. There were many active stables at the homes. Right now, I can think of just out of, I'm just going to round it off to maybe 3 dozen 40 summer homes, and maybe 2 of them have active stables.
That's interesting. So
Yeah.
in working on the houses, found have you ever run into anything? And I'm asking because in one of my stories, and I make them as historically correct as possible, they're set on the island, but I did write one that I made up, and they were remodeling one of the homes. It could have been you. I should have named the character Matt, who was doing this. And he took down a wall, and there was an alcove that had been,
Oh,
wallpaper.
oh,
Of course,
yeah.
they found a box of letters in the alcove. Have you ever found anything interesting?
Well, I can't really speak to the most interesting thing I found, but uh,
Well, wait. Well, I can't ask. I guess I can't ask you
no,
why
no,
if you can't speak to it.
I'm a big
Okay, okay.
mystery there. But
We'll have to use our imaginations. Yeah.
one of the coolest thing was my one and only commercial job that I had downtown, right next to the Mustang Lounge. At the
Mhm.
time, it was boy. Now I'm going back here a little bit. Edwards Gifts, owned by a local family, and it hadn't. It was a store, merchandise downstairs, a store right on the corner there next to the Mustang, and upstairs it had gone through a lot of things over the years, but it was pretty much empty. And I was tasked with putting some apartments in the upstairs, which had very tall ceilings. It was a pretty neat project, but we had to gut everything out, and we did get into some of the downstairs store area also. Um, but I got into the walls and whatnot, and come to find out that building was a fish in the fish industry of the 1840s. It
Mhm.
kind of went lumber fish fudge,
Mhm.
and the and the
Good
18
transition. Yeah.
yeah the 1840s the fish was big. I believe it was the 1840s, and I found a shipping label of that would go on a barrel of fish, and it was very legible. And the newspaper did an article on it, and the building had like a 4 foot square hole through the floor, through the second floor,
Mhm.
where they would hoist barrels and merchandise and whatnot up through the floor and store it on the second floor.
That
So
that's cool to hear because
yeah,
in my research, and I'm sure you know more about it than I do, but when I researched the island and learned that at first it was the fur trade, so it was
right.
The French were there,
Fur fish lumber, I guess it went
right?
maybe.
And was it fish first or lumber?
Well, I forget.
Yeah.
It
What I remember is that
was probably lumber. I think lumber was in the middle.
yeah, and so when the fur trade died, because they apparently killed all the animals, and when the fishing became popular, many Irish men came over because they were already good fishermen. And I found it so fascinating that there were the French and there were the Irish, and I found some German folks, and then there was a Pole, and the diversity, the mixture of people, absolutely fascinating. And you can go through the cemetery there and find almost any kind of name you could imagine. Uh, and so I love that. I love the history like that. But it's
It
funny,
is
it
amazing.
has transitioned to fudge because that is the first thing most of us fudgies do when we hit the island. So you, I love it that you found that. And so when you think about your writing, and you sent me something that was very beautiful. It's very lyrical that you wrote. Does the island and working on the island inspire you to write? Do you feel like that's in you no matter where you are, whether you're sitting in your sauna or whether you're somewhere else? Tell me a
Um,
little bit about that.
it in my early days, it was definitely a huge, huge inspiration.
Yeah.
And being a seasonal worker and not having the mental burdens of a full time job, if you will, you know, I the writing kind of went away as never out of my mind, but as far as putting it to paper and working on it that way.
Yeah.
The carpentry was pretty all consuming doing it here. There's so many balls that you keep in the air uh, to make it, as I say, make the magic happen because it's pretty involved to do a good job, stay ahead of it, and all aspects of it. It's pretty consuming. So I'm on the end of that. I'm starting to see daylight again. I'm starting to hear poems in my head again because I am winding down. My crew aged out. I'm cleaning up commitments that I've had. Little jobs here and there, some not so little, and but I'm real close to being retired out here at my own home, which I built at British Landing, and finishing up some details that the guy that designed it, me, didn't have didn't have figured out when I built it, and so I've had 20 plus years to sit and look at it, and I've got some plans and whatnot. But it's, the writing. Um, yeah, like I said, it's starting to come back in, but most days, most mornings, I riding my bike to town or to the job, which is normally to town. It's a 3.5 mile bike ride around the
Mhm.
west side of of the Showa Road, and that was my kind of my creative time. And I have a lot of stuff on my whatever the app is where you record memos,
Mhm.
voice memos. And so I have to go back through a long list of those ramblings, thoughts that I had riding my bike to work. And then bang, you're at work and that's gone for the day.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of where I'm at. I have a full length story that hit me like a freight train one day, and the story back in and this happened back in the late '80s down in Emmett County. In 5 minutes, I had the whole storyline roughed out, and nothing's happened to me like that or since then, before then or since then. So over the years, I've been keeping notes on that that
That
book.
story. You mentioned Emmett County and Cross Village, and I have a very dear friend who owned a business in Cross Village called Rug Works, and they actually would weave. She raised sheep. She would shear the sheep. She would
Yeah.
spin the yarn, and they had looms, and they would make these beautiful rugs. And it was across the street from Legs Inn.
Uh-huh.
Everybody knows Legs Inn if
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
ever
Yeah.
been to Cross Village. And so I was there many times, loved that area. So can you tell us at all what kind of story it is that's in your head? I want to encourage you to make sure you write it someday. But is it fiction, nonfiction? Is it
It's non
mystery?
it's fiction, but it's based on horses. A little bit of Mackinac comes into it.
Good.
The main character had, much like myself, had working horses on the island,
Uh-huh.
and ends up in another horse situation in another location for a full time job, and then it goes from there.
Ah,
Uh,
okay. So
yeah,
kind of familiar ground. Yeah. Good.
somewhat. Yeah. So I think it's pretty good, or I wouldn't be I wouldn't be pushing it.
Yeah, and I really believe that if it weren't good, it wouldn't still be in your mind. It would have
Right.
come and gone. And
Yes.
all these years later, you wouldn't still be thinking about it because
Yeah,
that's the
almost
writer's
almost
secret. We
40.
can't let go.
Right.
We can't. We have to get those stories out. And
And now, with the self-publishing kind of thing, it's all that more encouraging. Uh,
it
you
is.
can just get it out there.
And there's so many resources that help us. I used to be with a publisher. I was with a major New York City publisher for a long time, and then I went with a smaller publisher, and I finally left and I self-publish. And not that some publishers can't be great, but also with self-publishing, it's pretty easy to do it these days with and lots of people and systems to help. You just looked at is your at something. What's
Yeah, a blue jay flew by the window here.
how about if we wrap this up because our time is about up with a scene? Oh, thank you so much. Yes. Oh, so that's what you look at from your sauna. Oh, isn't that pretty?
And there's the song.
And you've got a fire going.
Yep,
Oh,
and
nice.
a candle.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. It's been such a delight. Is there anything else you want to say to folks or you'd like them to know or any questions of me? Anything
When
good
are you
you'd
going
like?
to be back on Mackinac?
Oh,
Hello?
I come every summer for the Lilac Festival
Uh-huh.
and it's my birthday week. And
Oh,
so, and they had the very first Lilac Festival the year I was born. So I feel like they do the whole thing for me. And it's so much fun. The festival and I are the same age, 77 years old. And
wow.
I went to the island for the first time when I was 9 years old. My parents took us kids, and that was it. I've been in love ever since. So,
Yeah, West Branch isn't that far away, really.
no, not at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So, I will see you next summer.
I'm going to leave you with my favorite fall poem of my own,
Okay. Oh, cool.
which takes place right at this time of year.
Uh-huh.
And if you stand out in front of the gatehouse, which is below the Grand Hotel, and look up Grand Boulevard, as we call it. The trees have been replaced since I wrote this in the 80s. The trees have been replaced. The old maples have been replaced with new maples.
Mm.
But this is where I was inspired to write of Mackinac, and it goes like this: I am leaving the trees bare as they were found, with only a brown rustle about the ground, as witness to a summer past. And that's that.
I love that. Thank that. Almost brought tears to my eyes. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. I appreciate it immensely.
Thank you
And
for your interest.
sure. And what a wealth of information. Oh my goodness. I feel like I've learned so much about the island and what it's like to really be there. So thanks again. And let's meet next summer, okay?
Okay, let's do
In,
that.
in fact, I've interviewed others and some other authors as well. And we've decided to meet up as a group of writers. So you have to join us, okay?
I'll bring my hammer.
Yay. All right. Thank you.
Your thing.